Hi, my name is Dennis. I'm a software engineer by profession, and this is my very first video on C# fundamental tutorial. Before we breeze into C# generally, as in writing codes or anything, we need to know what C# is. Okay? What is C#? C# is a programming language designed by Microsoft. C# is object-oriented programming, otherwise known as OOP. You may have heard the word OOP somewhere else before, but wondering what that means. It's basically object-oriented programming. Now, there are other lectures about object-oriented programming out there. A lot of tutorials, lots of them. So if you want to know more about OOP, then go take classes or search for tutorials on object-oriented programming. C# is derived from C++ and Java. C# is a part of .NET framework. C# is also pronounced as C#. Okay. Alright. Now, to dig a little bit more further, we need to understand the basics of C#. Okay. If you want to know the basics of C#, then we should be talking about variables, data types, subroutine, conditional statements, which includes if and switch, iterational statements, which includes do, for each, and while loops, and then collections and classes. Now, let's dig into a little bit more further into variable concepts. Before you know much about the concept, you need to know what a variable is, which means what is a variable? A variable is a placeholder of a value which is liable to change. In other words, a variable is a storage that can be changed. Okay, and now I'll show you a perfect example of that. Looks like that on the screen, where I'm using the VTS pattern, visibility, type, and signature, where you have a variable down here, a private string field, where the private happens to be its visibility state, and the string happens to be its type, and the first name happens to be its signature. Okay, now to write the variable, generally you can do it anywhere. You can use a console, or you can use a notepad or whatsoever. So for now, I want to create a console project to show you more of it, of how a variable looks like, and with the help of that, I will be doing a kind of like hello world project on the console project, and then you can see it further. Now, before we start, if you're not having Visual Studio, that happens to be the IDE, Integrated Development Environment, for writing codes, C#, C++, and etc, JavaScript or whatsoever. If you don't have that, if you are willing to have that, I would advise you to go to visualstudio.com, which is visualstudiomicrosoft.com, and pick a choice of yours. If you want to buy, you can buy the enterprise, you can buy professional, or use the penniless community version. You don't pay a dime for it. You can just take it and install and start using it. But if you want, there are a lot of tutorials out there that can teach you how to install it and how to create your very first project in Visual Studio. Okay, all right, and that brings us to the next part. So now let's go write some codes. Anyway, now start Visual Studio. I'm going to create a new console project to explain more about the variable concept, and as well as creating my very first hello world project for you to see how it works. Now, click on new projects, select console, give it the name that you want. In my case, I am calling it C# fundamentals. Okay, and save the project wherever you want to save it and say okay. Now there you go. We have our projects on board, which is a console project. At the moment, it's just an empty project. I can equally, let me bring that here. So You can see it. So now we have created the C# fundamental project, the very first project. That's how it looks like background, class, and a method inside, which is the subroutine. And now what we want to do, first of all, is give you an on-site of the world of programming. This they do every time. Hello world. I'll show you an example of that. Let me show you. And then let me say string. Let me use that one. So don't make this complicated. String. Is equals to hello world. Alright. And now I'm going to read that out to the console. The right line. Very first code. So now I'm going to include that here. Hello. So the read line to keep it steady. Alright, I'll run that. The first thing you see is my very first code, hello world, which we've done. Quite simple. Okay, console project, hello world. Now I'm going to add the variable class in it. So, and I should demonstrate a little bit more about the variables I wanted to talk about. So now I'm going, first of all, I have to stop the project and add what I called classes. And I'm going to add a class called variables. Keep them simple. Sorry, C# variables. So call it that one. Probably make this public. Get those that are not needed out. Okay. Now that's the class. Now class is a different topic entirely. We'll come to that later. What we have here now is I'm just going to copy that. And actually I'll copy everything and place it here. Void is written with small v. And this is not. Okay, now, like I explained earlier, this is a variable. This is a variable, this is equally a variable, this is a variable, and this is a variable. So, we have a private variable, which are private to this class. So, you can only see them here in this class. In the class, C# variables. And then we have the public types, which are otherwise known as property or fields, which you can see beyond this class. You can see them in this class, and you can equally use them beyond this class to maybe in other classes when this class has been used in other classes. So, and then we have the local variable. That is a perfect example of a local variable. String, city, and majesty. String city assigned string type, signature is city, and it's been assigned with city majesty. Okay. All right, let's take a little bit more further. Now, a perfect example of this part should be like, let me copy that, place in front of it, will be in the case of we are having the visibility state of this is private. The type is string. I'll put that there, and its signature is first name. Okay. Got that? Okay. believe it's copied, and that will bring us now a little bit more further to our next topic, data type basics. The data type basics includes int, pronounced as integer, string, bool, pronounced as boolean, object, floating, char, date, time, dynamic, and finally nullable types. More of this we'll be discussing in codes, but I will be starting with int and the string and boolean, of course, down to objects. Okay, meaning that we should be dealing with issues like how to declare a data type. I mean, that should not be a huge issue anymore because we've done that already. I've showed you how to declare variables, and that's the same as when you're declaring the data type. And then how to assign to a data type, how to get the value from a data type, and knowing the output of a data type. Okay, now to see more of that, I think we have to demonstrate that in codes. Let's go write some codes. All right, to keep things simple, I'm going to add the data type C# data type basics class here. So that's where we are going to be adding all our data types. I showed you formally how to create a class. Just right click and say add class and give it a name that you want, and you are good to go. I'm going to make that public, trying to separate everything from one another, so keep it simple and clean. So first of all, we're going to be talking about the integer part of it. Okay, the int part of it. Basically that one, int, integer. That's the first one we're going to be doing. And to keep things simple, I kind of like did something before. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to copy that into it. I've written some codes before just to keep them simple, and then I'm going to set the h here, make it a bit faster. Console, yeah, take that. So I've added a variable called h, and I assigned it with a value, and I am, this is local. You can as well do it local if you want, but that's just it. That's a perfect example of how to assign it locally. Take that out, we don't really need that. So h variable output, and then we write it into the console and then get this data type. So now this h, I'm going to take this class and use it on the main source, which is here. Say variable that one, no, sorry, variable that one, that type basic equals to new, that one. So let me actually bring this down. So, and then I'm going to call the subroutine that I created earlier for you to see h, and the output will be written out of the console. So let's run that actually. Oh, you need that to keep the console on board, or else it's going to run out. Starts and runs away. Start again. There you go. H variable output, where we have the h is equals to 43 and the type is int 32. Okay. Alright, now that's all about the integer part, and now I'll bring that back. We're going to talk about the string part. To keep that simple, I've made some series of codes as well, which I'm going to take with me. I have first name, yes, I have what they call the first name, which I've declared here before, so I'm going to set that as public, and take its property, not property, subroutine, place it in there. Now what I did is I declared a variable at the top, and which is a property. I gave it first name Dennis, and I will actually make this as last name as well. Let me make this public and take it as well down to here and here. So what I did is I have two properties, one a first name and last name, and I assign my first name to the first variable and assign my last name to the second variable, which happens to be two properties, and I am giving them now locally to a local variable, which you see here. I'm assigning both names to the local variable. To have it as in my name will now be like the way it's been pronounced, Dennis Urawa. Okay, so this is what's going to be printed out, and this will be assigned to full name, and then write blank, and then give out the output in this form, which is name is equals to, and then get the type. So to keep things simple, let's go run that again. The first place we need to get involved, that means call it, which is set name. Let's run this. Look at that, we have the first name and last name variable output, so where we have the name and Dennis Urawa, type string, exactly the way I explained it to you. So alright, now we're going to dig a little bit more further to the Boolean type, which you have here. So to keep things simple as well, I have create a signature for that as well. It's going to be here, place it there. Okay, now it's age greater than 0. So, and I have equally created a subroutine to be used for that form, which I have here. And what my subroutine is doing is it's looking at, it's actually taking the value that is saved in the age if it is greater than 0. What this does, it gives either true or false. That is what it does. Okay, it assigns it to its age greater than 0. But in other words, when you define a Boolean type, where default is always false. Okay, so but you should just bear that in mind, that it's always false, even when you start a project newly, except for the fact that if you set it on constructor, each project has a constructor, and each project has a constructor or class. That we'll talk more about in the nearest future as we dig more further into C# fundamental. Alright, so now let's go check what's going to happen here is that is age greater than 0. If age is greater than 0, then we're going to be having age is greater than 0, and we're going to be having true here. If it's not, we're going to be seeing false been written inside here. So let's actually set the age here to 20. Okay, now we're going to call the Boolean and see what happens when we call it, and see if it's true or it's false. So, and then I'm going to add that line of code there to call the Boolean type, the Boolean subroutine, and run this again. Look at that. Is age greater than 0? Yes, it's true. Age is 20, which we previously added in there, and then the type is of system Boolean. Okay. All right. So now if I go back actually I've set age has equally been set here before, so we don't need to set it here anymore. So take that out. Let me run this again to be sure. Okay, age is 43, and that's why we say we're having it here. Is age greater than 0? Yes, it's true. Age is greater than 0, and it's definitely true, and that's why we have it true there. So let's go change that and set age to 0. Run that. Is age greater than 0? False. Age is 0, so it's false. So that's the perfect way to use a boolean. I mean, there are other ways, but just giving you an insight on how you can use a boolean to check on values and before proceeding. Okay? Alright. Now, the next part that we should be talking about is the object, which is that one. So, an object can be assigned with anything. It can be assigned with a string, with a string type, with an integer type, or basically your own kind of type. If you have a class that you've made on your own and you've made an object out of it, you can assign it to an object. But always remember to cast it back to your own type. That is the trick behind it. I'm going to actually copy a code that I've done before to keep it simple or a little bit faster. As you can see here, I am setting an object type in the subroutine, and I have a variable called city of type object, and I'm assigning a string to it called Manchester. Okay, and I write that again like formally back to my console and get this type. So in order for us to see that on the console, we need to add the subroutine here as well, which is that one. And then before I do that, let me go check that out again. CT variable output, and yes, we did it right. And then run this. Yeah, CT variable is output. Name is Manchester. Actually, that's not name, that's city. Well, okay. Type is string. Okay, let's go back to the code. Let me call that city. So what you see on screen was quite simple. The object was assigned with the string Manchester, and its type was defined automatically on the console. So now what happens if I make that a string? I say, okay, Manchester is having a code. Let me say, for example, he's having a code 16. Okay, that's a string, a code to find a city in a country. So okay, maybe Manchester is code 1 or code 16. Let's put 16. Okay, and then when I run that, what you see is city variable output is city code 16, and the type is integer. So in other words, what I'm trying to explain is that an object can be assigned with anything. Okay, let me revise that a bit. I can even say I'm assigning a boolean to it, for example. Let me say, let's do this. Is age greater than 0? So we're going to see what's going to come out from it. See, false. City is false. So, but I know none of this makes sense, but it's just to show you the onside of a variable, what you can do with what you can do with objects generally. Okay, so let me take that back and leave it the way it was before. So that's it about objects, and we should just go straight to the next point, which happens to be floating. Now, to keep things simple, I've written some codes already in my console, which I copied and pasted here. You see, I've declared 3 types of float. I've declared the floats, the double, and the decimal, and I've assigned a value to them. Assigned a value to the double, assigned a value to the decimal, which I will print out and show. So, and for one reason or the other, you might be needing the floating type for mathematical aspect, maybe for when you're programming some stuff for a bank or brokers and traders, etc. So, and it's very essential that you know the floating types, especially for mathematical forms. It's very, very important. So let me go add this there and read the floating into the console as well. Let's run that. All right, look at that. We have a float variable output, and the value is 50, and the type is single. This is a float, okay, and it's of a single type. And then same applies to double variable output. The value is 50, and the type is double. And now look at the decimal. The decimal output is 550.0, and it's of decimal type. So that's all about floating. So, and that will lead us maybe in our next video to our next point, which happens to be the char. And should be talking more about the char in the next video. Talk more about datetime, dynamic, and nullable types. Okay. All right. For now, thanks for watching. See you on my next video.